So it's been about 3 weeks since Samsung launched their flagship S24 Ultra, and in the first 3 weeks, the phone got a lot of hype, being called the best phone in the market by a lot of reviewers out there. But now that it's been a few weeks, and I've been using this every single day, it's time to set the spec sheets aside and talk about what this phone is actually like to use on a day-to-day basis. I found some pretty incredible features that weren't mentioned in initial reviews, as well as some drawbacks that I just did not expect. So in this video, I want to delve into the nuances of using this phone and determine whether or not it's really the best phone you can buy right now. And in this video, I kind of want to go like pro con, back and forth, talking about the different features and drawbacks I found as we go throughout this video. Starting off with something I really liked, kind of the nuances of the flat display. So the flat display, I know, is kind of a mixed bag. Like, some people view it as less premium, some people really like it. Personally, I found a lot of advantages in having a flat display. For one, if you wanted to get a tempered glass screen protector, you have a lot of options. They're very, very cheap. And so I got one like this right here, which is a privacy screen, meaning that people can't see what I'm looking at if they're more than like 25 degrees off to the side. I don't know if I want to call this a downside, but the downside of getting a screen protector is that you kind of negate some of the incredible features that are built into the phone by default. So if you don't get a screen protector, it's already really strong glass and it's really anti-reflective. Like, that is so impressive that comparing this to literally any phone on the market right now, this has so much less glare. And in combination with a 2600 nit display, like, this is so easy to use in any bright environment. So kind of a weird downside is that if you do end up getting a tempered glass screen protector, you're gonna be downgrading your phone in many ways. I still did it though, because I just wanted the extra peace of mind of not worrying about scratching my display, and I wanted the privacy aspect there. But I mean, I guess those are technically two positives for this phone. Like, the display is really, really good. Moving into another positive though, and I promise there are more drawbacks that are definite drawbacks. I use the S Pen all the time, and it is the flat display helps a lot, being able to write closer to the edges without like falling off on the side. But a downside is that the digitizer on here can get a little bit wonky on the outer, I'd say about 1/10 of an inch. So as you're writing closer to the edge, sometimes it works really well and sometimes it doesn't. It's still a massive improvement to have a flat display, but it's definitely not perfect. In addition, you can also trigger the back gesture quite often when you're drawing close to the left side. So it's not perfect. You can't use the entire screen when you're writing, but you can use a pretty good portion of it. Now, the last item in the little flat display segment of this video right now is we're actually getting larger buttons thanks to the flat display. By not having a waterfall edge there, there's more real estate to make the buttons wider, which Samsung did. It sounds really subtle, and it is subtle, but just taking the phone out of your pocket and having larger buttons definitely makes it a little bit more convenient and usable. And now, talking about the battery life on this phone, first of all, a little disclaimer, I was using the Pixel Fold before this, so I was used to an absolutely horrific battery life, barely getting through one day. This, even with Quad HD on, it's nearly a 2-day battery for me. I'm getting 1 day and 21 hours between charges, and like, I just plug it in while I'm working out. So like, it's not in my pocket anyway, it's plugged in like on the side. So that works out perfect for me. Also, I would highly recommend anyone who has this phone and wants to charge wirelessly, just get a MagSafe charging case. The MagSafe mounts out there, in my opinion, are the best way to charge when you're at your desk or in your car or in many other environments. However, this phone definitely is heavier than a lot of the iPhones out there, so you want to make sure you're getting a good case that has a really strong magnet on the back. Moving on to a negative, this one sounds dumb, but like I said, I was coming from a folding phone before. This phone doesn't fold, so this means that you're going to have to either get a tripod or a stand when you're watching videos, say like while you're eating lunch, for example. Also, multitasking, you can only do multitasking like on the top and the bottom. Of course, you can't use the rear lenses for like selfie videos or photos without like guessing at the angle. And like, yes, all of those are pretty obvious when you're talking about, like, yes, of course, Mike, the phone doesn't fold, but at this price, you're kind of competing with folding phones. So it's worth being aware of some of the drawbacks that you would kind of have to overcome by getting either like a case with a stand on the back or something like that. Now, a positive with this phone are this suite of AI features on here. These are really quite impressive. Some of them weren't even really mentioned in the keynote, and others I haven't really seen in any reviews mentioned either. So one that I thought was really cool is the AI generated wallpapers. They give you a couple options for like landscapes, the colors you want, and maybe other features you want in there. And you can really do kind of any permutation, which is kind of strange. Like, you can have like brown mountains with coral, and somehow Samsung puts that all together and makes surprisingly good looking wallpapers. So you don't have to browse Reddit to find good wallpapers. You can kind of just make them in the phone. I think it's only going to get better from here as well. In addition, Circle to Search, without a doubt, is my favorite feature on this phone. It's also available on the Google Pixels now, and I use this absolutely all the time. Endless use cases for searching for text, for searching for images, texting, like anything you want like that. Like what I generally end up doing is on YouTube videos, I'm watching the video, and I really like a shirt somebody's wearing, or I want to know more about like an object in the background. I just tap and hold on the bottom, I'll circle that. You can use your finger or the S Pen, of course, and it searches it, tells you all about it. If it's a location, you can navigate to it. If it's a restaurant, it'll give you like all the relevant options, of course, for whatever you're searching. I also really appreciate the AI assistant in calls, and I think this keeps getting better and better. I think it's actually superior to Google Pixel now, their call screening, because I'm able to type any response I want and just text back and forth with the person who's talking on the other end. So if I'm in a meeting and like a roofer's coming and they need to fix something and they call me, then I can just type a reply and say, hey, I'm in a meeting, I'll be out in 2.5 minutes. And so that's a lot better than like saying, the pre-written responses that Google Pixel has, like, can you please tell me more? What is your name? Stuff like that. Like sometimes you have to type an actual response, but you don't want to answer the phone because, like I said, you're in a meeting or something like that. There's a lot of other really deep features, the AI features baked into this. I love all of them. I think they're really impressive. I don't really use the photo editing ones nearly as often. I don't use like the AI slow motion feature, and I don't use a lot of the generative typing features, but like I said, these are all super powerful, and I love that they're on here. Another positive with this phone is that unlike the Pixel, and many other phones for that matter, the squared off corners, I know it's not new to this phone in particular, but it makes viewing media really quite pleasant. Like you really utilize the full real estate. You don't have rounded edges on your video, and it just looks more like a TV or a laptop or any other device that you'd naturally watch media on. A positive with this phone, again, is the durability with titanium edges, very strong, very scratch resistant. The glass, like I said, is incredibly scratch resistant, and with 7 years of updates, like I could buy this phone for myself or for like my parents, for example, and be very confident that you can use this for a really long time. It's incredibly fast on the inside, the processor's great, and I don't really see like software updates are going to be enough for this phone. Like it's so fast now, and if you look at phones from like 2 or 3 years ago, like we're kind of getting to the point where older phones still work really well. Like this is not 2012 anymore, where every year phones have a massive upgrade in speed. Like they're all more than fast enough for everyday tasks. A downside with this display, this is kind of a weird little quirk I noticed. When you're at ultra low brightness, so you are like laying in bed at midnight, whatever, it's super dark, the display is almost grainy and kind of like paper-like when you go to an ultra dim setting with this. Maybe it's a positive because you're able to get that dim, but still, it just is a little strange. I thought at first something was wrong with my display, but that's just how it reacts to the ultra dim settings there. A positive with this phone, kind of just a big win for Androids in general, I would say, is that Quick Share now works with any Android phone out there, which is fast, it's reliable, but it does sometimes take a beat to find other non-Samsung phones. Samsung phones seem to be very good at being discoverable on Quick Share. It's going to be the same as Nearby Share and other Android phones, but still, it takes an extra couple seconds to really find like my Pixel phones and things like that. Talking about the camera with this phone, I found the limits on this camera. I found what it does really well, as well as where it struggles. It takes very natural photos. So in the past, Samsung kind of always had very saturated photos. They had it like a little overdone, too much HDR, very synthetic. But now they look much more natural. They're a little slightly warmer on the hue, on the tones. So kind of similar to iPhone photos in a lot of regards. And I just really like the photos out of this. I found that low light shots in urban environments, absolutely A+. This does it like no other phone out there, especially when you're zooming into 5x or 10x. Like you can see here, looking at the Empire State Building, this did a fantastic job. But of course, you can find the limits with low light. If you go somewhere that is really, really dark, outdoors, on an island, whatever, you don't have a lot of light pollution, and you're taking a handheld shot, Samsung tries to make it look like daylight, which I don't like. And in addition, I found that some lenses, like the ultra-wide lens, add like a weird red tint, like a red vignette around the entire photo. So when it struggles, it kind of just collapses. Like it really doesn't do well in those environments. It tries way too hard to make it look like really like a great photo, and it fails completely. So I would basically say when you're in a really low light environment, just don't use the ultra wide lens, and definitely don't use the 3x lens. That has a really tiny sensor, but the primary lens does a great job, and the 5x lens also does a really good job. I found that macro and product shots are really phenomenal with this camera. In particular, using that telephoto lens, the 5x, gives you a really nice natural blur without even using portrait mode. But if you do use portrait mode, again, you're getting a really nice depth of field, a very natural, like if you just look at this photo of me, you can see how the grass near my feet is less blurry than the grass far away, and it kind of fades into that. It's not like a harsh cutout like they used to be several years ago. I was very impressed with that. I did find that there was less detail in the portrait mode, less detail saved in each photo. So if you take a photo and you want to crop in later, it's going to be lower quality. You kind of want to get your framing right the first time you take the shot when you're using portrait mode. Now, let's get into a quick little social media camera test to see how the photos look on Instagram as well as on Snapchat, because that is supposed to be a really big improvement with this phone, and I want to show you guys that. So this is a video test with the primary rear lens, just shooting it with the normal default camera app. So this is a video test with Snapchat using the rear primary lens again. We'll see how well this compares. And now this is a video test with Instagram using the rear camera. This should have better dynamic range than previous generations, but we'll see how this compares. All right, so in conclusion with this phone, the S24 Ultra, I mean, One UI has really changed a lot over the past 2 to 3 years, and I really like it now. Like, I was a big time Pixel user, but One UI feels very familiar and kind of a lot more mature than it was before. It doesn't feel cluttery, it feels very natural, and I like using it. This phone in particular has probably the best hardware on any phone I've used in recent past, and currently it is my favorite phone in the market. So the S24 Ultra is my everyday phone. I wish it folded, yes, and I wish the Z Fold 6 would be a lot more like this aspect ratio, but hey, only time will tell if we're actually gonna see that. If you enjoyed the video, consider liking and subscribing. I'm Mike O'Brien, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.